This is a very interesting topic, I think. Everything that I talk about is very interesting to me, but the concept came to mind as we're doing this drill that we've been doing in class this week, which I don't really want to fully spoil it for people, but basically we've done a couple of versions of it, some that work better than others, where you are really coming face to face with what would I do if somebody was attacking me in my house. And I got this idea from Sifu Brown because he said, and I completely agree with him, he's not interested in just teaching fitness. He's not interested in just doing like a Taibo class on Zoom. He's interested in like teaching real stuff and real self-defense. And I'm trying to do the same thing, as close to it as we can to real martial arts and real self-defense on the computer. It's tough, but it's working pretty well. And he told me that, he said, this is one of the only times that I actually really liked teaching on Zoom, and it's for this specific drill and the way that it works. And you guys got to do class if you haven't yet in Michigan or here, and you'll understand what we're talking about. But it is geared very much towards real life self-defense. And everything that we do is geared towards that, of course, but this is in a very focused and very specific, very real-world way. And as we're thinking about self-defense, I'm starting to think about, like, well, what am I going to do for meditation talk this week, and how does this have anything to do with what we're doing in class? I usually talk about the challenge of the week, which is taking the stairs as much as you can. Not a lot to talk about for meditation with that, just take the stairs a lot. The question of the week, there's a lot there, and I might talk about this on a different night, but do I like the person who I am? I like that a lot, but I got attached to this concept of talking about self-defense and meditation and how it works together. So I'm going to kind of sprinkle in some stories from some of our students who have been attacked in real life. Some of our students in Michigan, some of our students here. And I'm going to talk about the real implications for self-defense, the way that we practice and how that works, but more importantly, the way that meditation and our internal practice comes into play with this. So one of the most recent incidents that a younger student had, so it was back at our old location right down the street, at Bundy. He was actually right across the street from our old dojo at the Smarten Final. And, the Smarten Final draws an eclectic crowd of people. And this student was walking up to the door from the side of the parking lot when somebody else drove his car, kind of screeched to a halt in front of him, jumped out of the car, and says, "What's good, homie?" And our student just kind of keeps going, trying to avoid it, and the guy just swings at him. Out of nowhere, jumps out of the car and just punches at our student's head. And so he responded pretty well, and he told me the story. He says, "This is what I did, Sifu. He swung at me, I ducked his punch, I went uppercut, elbow strike, and I just grabbed him and threw him, and I ran all the way down the street to the Ralph's, because I was walking into the Smarten Final to buy some grapes and bananas, so I ran all the way up to Ralph's and bought my grapes and bananas and then went home." And I was like, this is so brilliant in so many ways, but I was happy that he was able to physically defend himself. I was happy that he didn't go too far, which sometimes happens in self-defense. We get into this whole, like, how dare you kind of attitude towards the attacker. And I say we, I've never gotten into a how dare you with an attacker. With other people in my life, yes. But he was just like, I did what I needed to do, and then I ran away. And that was it. And he actually had the wherewithal to not completely freak out. He just did what he was there to do. He just had to go to a different grocery store where someone wasn't trying to beat him up. He ran in there, got his produce, and just sauntered on home. And This I think is partly a product of somebody who might just be more naturally kind of calm and okay, because he was only a white sash when this happened and had not been practicing with me for that long. So I can't really take a lot of credit for this. I think that it was partially that, and partially the way that we practice self-defense. Obviously the physical technique came from that, and the understanding of, I'm not just out there trying to beat people up. If somebody does attack me, this is why we refer to our partners as partners and not opponents. And I even talk about this in self-defense. If somebody else is attacking you, you're thinking of them as a partner. Because even though they might be really trying to hurt you, if you don't have to hurt them, you don't. And there are a lot of reasons why we would choose to do this. But it's like what Ueshiba Sensei said, the founder of Aikido, would say that if I do more than I need to do, basically if I'm adding too much of myself, and if I'm adding extra energy or extra aggression to a self-defense situation, that's when I build bad karma. And if I'm not adding my own energy, I'm not adding anything of myself, there's no aggression, there's nothing, there's just the technique, and it just flows through me, then there is no bad karma built. Whether or not you believe karma, you can understand this from a legal perspective. If somebody attacks you and they're just, not very good and using their bare hands, and you're like, let me pull out this sword and chop your head off, you're going to get in trouble. That's bad karma, and you're going to jail. But this all hinges on our ability to keep our cool, because very few people in any kind of stressful situation, of course one that is an actual self-defense scenario, but in any kind of stressful situation is very difficult, the most difficult time for us to stay calm. So this is why, on some level, we meditate. And if we are able to keep ourselves calm when we're sitting still, and we're constantly bringing our mind back to our breath, and we are building in that habit, then it is more likely to happen when we're in a stressful situation. And when you practice something over and over again, whether it's a physical technique or it's a mental technique, like going back to your breath, it becomes second nature. It becomes something that we naturally do. And it's actually a good idea to sit and meditate, or take some deep breaths, or do something that you know is going to calm you down in the moment when you are feeling the most stressed, because we want to get that into our consciousness and make it the automatic response that we have to stress. Is we're able to calm ourselves down. It's the only way that we'll be able to effectively defend ourselves in an actual self-defense situation, a physical self-defense situation, but also the only way that we'll be able to deal with life when life happens, because life doesn't usually happen the way that we want it to. It throws stressful situations at us, and if we've been meditating, we'll be able to deal with it better. Another story about a student that had less time in the dojo and had a less stellar response in the moment was, I would say, way more scary, and it's part of the reason why it was probably a less stellar response. So this is one of our students back in Michigan who had, again, only been training with us for a couple of months, not even a white sash yet. And she came into the dojo and she told me this story. She said, Sifu, 2 nights ago, I was walking up with my family. We drove home, we got out of the car, and my 2 kids and I and my husband are walking up to the front door. My husband opens up the door and walks inside, and I start to walk inside, and he yells, Michelle, get the kids. And I look up and I see 2 big guys in the house that were obviously there stealing. One of the guys runs out the back door, the other guy runs towards the front door where we're going in the house. And I look at him and I freeze. And my husband luckily tackles the guy. The husband had not been practicing martial arts, but he tackled the guy. And I just stood there, frozen. And thank God when the guy finally got up, he just ran out the door, ran past the kids, and left and didn't hurt anybody. But you can imagine how that could have gone. And the interesting thing here is, first of all, you guys get the idea, because I talk about this sometimes. In fact, in this class about home invasion, your main goal is not to hurt this other person. Your main goal is to get away. And oftentimes, somebody who's committing a crime is thinking, they've always gotten this in the back of their heads, I got to get away. I got to get away with this. That's my main goal, is to be able to get away with this. And even, serial rapists and murderers, the reason that they are able to do it over the years to many people is because they're always thinking about, I got to get away with this. I got to get away with this. So if you are creating a situation that kind of invites this person out of your house quickly, then great, that works. This was not really that. So the guy who ran out the back door, great, that's nice, that's lucky. But when the husband tackled this guy, he was thinking, obviously, this guy's going to run and attack my wife. This guy's going to attack my kids. I've got to stop him. And nobody can fault him for that. That is like a very likely scenario that could have played out. The student of ours who stood there and froze, I'm sure looking back, and she probably still looks back on this situation, would have chosen to do any of a number of different things. A very simple thing is just like, the guy's on the ground, here's his head, treat it like a soccer ball, just kick, and that's it. The whole situation is done. And she froze. And the reason she froze was because in that moment she kind of freaked out and did not know what to do. Now, if you have practiced techniques and you've practiced scenarios like this, that's more likely to make you know what to do. And it is way more important to practice having the right mental state. And there's not necessarily one perfect state or one perfect way to act or respond in this situation, but there are some great ways that will really help, like going back to the breath and keeping yourself calm, and principles to keep in mind. And then there is everything else, like freezing, like thinking, oh my God, he's going to murder me right now, like having an actual visual of the violence in your head. All that is going to freak you out and not help the situation. So we want to be able to, in that moment, respond by keeping ourselves calm and acting in the best, or responding in the best possible way, whatever is there for us in that moment. These things are, the way that I'm talking about it so far is very much about the idea of meditation helping us in self-defense. And you guys understand how meditation helps you in your everyday life. I hope you do. And most of you have been meditating a lot, or you're probably not listening to this talk. For those of you who have not been meditating every day, you should do it. It will change your life, absolutely. It will for sure make you better able to deal with anything that arises. And the more stressful situation it is, the more important it is that we have done the work ahead of time. So this is like the difference between planning for a fire when your house is burning down and planning for a fire before your house is actually on fire. So this is what meditation is. This is like paying your insurance. This is like just making that smart decision and knowing exactly what you're going to do if there is a fire. But there's also a flip side of this, which is actually the first way that this concept kind of rung for me. And it's a little bit of a stretch, but I think it's going to work. So when we do a self-defense class in the dojo, we call it the ABCs of self-defense. Every class is great for teaching self-defense, but we do a specific self-defense class where we lay out these concepts and these principles. And this is, again, something that I stole from Sifu Brown, and it's a brilliant kind of rubric or way to think of self-defense in a very quick and simple way. So the A stands for, and you guys that are watching this at home that know it, the A stands for awareness. And awareness is the first one because it's the most important thing. B stands for breaking the script. And breaking the script is really great. It is the second thing that you should do in a self-defense situation, and I'll explain what that is. And then C, confrontation, is also very important to be able to do, but it is the last step. So first, awareness. Now, awareness for self-defense is pretty simple. You get it. Like, I am aware of my surroundings. I know when something is going to happen, or as quickly as possible, as early as I can. I'm not in denial. I'm not pretending that something is not happening. And it's a little bit of like a spidey sense or like a sixth sense where we have this, and many people who have been attacked have said that I knew something was wrong, I couldn't put my finger on it, but something didn't feel right. We don't want to stop with that, because if that's all you get, it's not enough to defend yourself. You want to take that and then really kind of hone it and be aware, look around, right? Know where the exits are in any building that you're in. Know what you would grab as a weapon. Know what you would do in any situation. Awareness goes into the things like locking your doors and windows at home so that people can't break in easily. But awareness for meditation. Instead of meditation for self-defense, we're talking about self-defense for meditation. And awareness is what meditation is all about. It is usually about your inner self that you're becoming aware, right? So you're recognizing what your thoughts are, you're recognizing what your emotions are, what your state of your breathing is. And then also this should help you take this out into a little bit more of a sphere. So you're no longer only aware of yourself, you're also aware of your surroundings. And when you sit and meditate, sometimes you'll do this as a technique. This is not usually what we do in the dojo, but maybe you're sitting and instead of focusing on your breath, you're focusing on a sound. Or your eyes are open and you're focusing on the flame of a candle or something like this. And these are great options for you guys to try with your meditation. To try to expand your consciousness in a way that is the very like woo-woo way of like, yeah, I'm connecting to all of the souls in the universe and all that, which is great and you should do that. And in a very real sense of like, I am conscious and aware of what's going on around me. Now, we talk about meditation as kind of a race to be able to lock down your senses so that you are not feeling the aches and pains and distractions and all that, because it does take you out of your meditation. And some days that's not an option, and you're just going to be with those sensations. You're going to be with that pain that you're feeling, that ache. You're going to be with that fly that keeps buzzing around. I've been sitting here for a half an hour, and I've just been annoyed by that bee buzzing or that fly buzzing. So now instead of being annoyed by it, I'm going to use it and use that as the focal point. So this is a way to kind of take a principle of self-defense into meditation. B, breaking the script, is the next one. This is my favorite part of self-defense. In self-defense, it's the idea of the attacker. Again, they have in their mind the idea of, I want to get away with it. I want it to go this way. This is what's going to happen first, then this, then this. This is the script that they have in their mind. And especially if they are repeat offenders, they have an order of things and a script and the way that they think it's going to go. So our job is to break that script by doing something that's totally unexpected and weird. The example that I like to use a lot is you take something solid and you chuck it through the window, which breaks, it shatters the window, and then you start making lots of noise and screaming for help, and that makes the attacker think, this person is crazy. What are they going to do next? But it also makes them think, wait a minute, who heard that? And that was not something that they planned on. They weren't planning on you chucking something through your window, shattering it, and screaming. So in the attack and the self-defense scenario, this probably gets this person to run out the back door. Maybe it just buys you a second to yourself run out, or for you to, move in and strike or do whatever the next best thing to do is. So breaking the script makes sense in self-defense. For meditation, what does this have to do with meditation? Well, meditation first helps us recognize what our own scripts are, what these tapes are that we run over and over again in our minds, and what our attachments are. So having a script is another way of talking about attachment. The attacker is attached to things going a certain way. When that attachment is broken, that's why it's so jarring, and that's how you can use it to your advantage. We have our own attachments, we have our own scripts, and these tapes that we're running over and over again in our minds. So first, meditation should make us aware of these things. And when you sit to meditate, that's what you're going to come face to face with. This is kind of the confrontation part of it already. But you're going to come face to face with all that crap that's going on in your head and recognize it. And then we hope accept it, but then also be able to move through it. And so breaking the script with our own attachments is like, okay, I go back to the breath. That's breaking the cycle of thought, that train of thought that we were on, and just letting it go by coming back to the breath. Breaking the script has a little bit more of a violent kind of forceful connotation to it than I think we want with meditation, but you guys get the idea. It inserts something between one thought and the next that allows us to let it go. And this is super important for us during meditation and during life, because if you're doing it during meditation, when you're aware of it, you know you're doing it throughout your day. And you want to be able to break those scripts that you keep running in your head, those thoughts that you keep being attached to. And meditation will help us be aware of it, and then also throughout the day have the awareness to break the script and be able to come back to the moment, which on some level is really what our meditation is for, to help us to be in this moment. In this moment, there is no script, because the script is all about a timeline. The script is like first this, then this, then this. And if you're a great actor following a script, you're not, in your brain thinking about what happened and what's going to happen. You're in the moment. But most people with the script are not great like that. And most of us are not great like that. We are very much in our own story, caught up with what just happened in the past, or what happened in the far past, or what might happen in the future. And all of that is fantasy and illusion. So meditation is all about getting rid of that fantasy and getting rid of that script and that story and being able to be totally in the present. So do something, whether it's coming back to the breath or getting yourself out of that train of thought and that script so that we can be totally in the present. And then confrontation. Meditation for a lot of people is a confrontation, for sure. You're being confronted by thoughts and emotions and things that you do not want to be thinking about. You're being confronted by, things about yourself that maybe you don't like. So I guess this is how I'll link it to the question of the week. Do I like the person that I am? And when we get confronted by these things, the reason that it is so confronting for us is that we take these things very personally and we treat them like they are permanent factors or like that they are permanent. So I'll jump around to another story here. This is probably my favorite story of self-defense to tell because it's very dramatic and cool. But this is one of our students back in Michigan again who was walking through Detroit, which is downtown Detroit is fairly safe no matter what you've seen in the movies. It's not RoboCop, we're not in those times yet. And is walking up the staircase, I think it was like 10, the middle of the day basically. Fairly safe scenario. Being in a parking structure, so he's walking up the stairs in a parking structure, is a somewhat dangerous place. It's something like 10% of violent attacks happen in parking lots, parking structures, and so that's something that you want to be aware of. But as he's walking up the stairs, he hears somebody running up the stairs behind him, clang, 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 clang. And so he turns and looks and sees a big guy with a big knife stabbing right at him. And in the moment, he didn't have any chance to do anything other than move out of the way, take the guy's arm, break it like we run in class with the standing arm bar, and then he's got the guy down on the ground. He somehow, either they stumble or he takes him down to the ground, and he's still got the guy's arm, and he's got the knife, and he's punching the guy with the knife when a second guy runs up the stairs. And if there's any great way, a surefire way to break the script for somebody, it's they expected to see you on the ground in a pool of your own blood. Instead, they see you beating up your buddy, with their own weapon. So that guy ran away, and our student let the other guy up, and he ran away, and I'm sure went to the hospital with a broken arm, and thought twice about attacking a nicely dressed man who kind of carried himself in that way. And one of the craziest parts was this knife. When the student looked at himself to make sure that he was okay, he noticed that the knife had actually sliced through the outer shirt that he was wearing, but then hadn't touched the inner layer. So he was partly lucky, but partly very skillful, and was bruised on his ribs by the knuckles of the hand that was holding the knife, so inches away from getting stabbed. And all of the skill that went into that really came from the years of him practicing with that technique with other students who were really coming after him and giving him a great experience so that he could defend himself. There's no question that is not the product of just one person's diligent practice. That's the product of an entire dojo working together to keep each other safe. And it was amazing how it happened. Now, he didn't really have a chance to allow himself to freak out in that moment. But in the days and weeks and months and I'm guessing years to come, this stuck with him, because he had just had a son born, like just before this happened. And so in the moment, he's being an amazing martial artist and doing all the incredible stuff, and if somebody had been there to film it, I'm sure it would have been all over YouTube. But after this, now he's dealing with the thought of, oh my God, what would have happened if I had been stabbed and killed? Like, I wouldn't have been there for my son, I would have been there for my family and everybody else. And that really stuck with him. And I know that he was waking up in the middle of the night thinking about that. So this sort of thing, this is something to confront and to be confronted by. This ability to kind of break the script so you're no longer stuck in that story and that thought of what could have happened. But when we ask the question, do I like the person who I am? We think of things that happened in a moment, and we make them permanent. So this is a little bit of a stretch, but you could think like, if that student thought, he could have taken that event and thought of himself as, I'm just a complete badass, and everything that I encounter for the rest of my life, I'm just going to destroy. And that could have been one kind of permanent way of seeing himself. That student also could have taken that thought of, the world is dangerous, and I could have died then, and who knows what's going to happen next time, and made that more of a permanent fixture, and almost like a fixture of his personality. And that's a little bit more of a stretch than things that you guys have experienced in your own life. We do something in the moment, and maybe it's something that we've done several times, or maybe even many times, and we think of ourselves as, that's just who I am. I was lazy in high school, so I'm lazy now. I'm just a lazy person. We want to confront those things and recognize that they are impermanent. So when we ask the question, do I like the person who I am, that is an opportunity to confront and to differentiate between the things that we do or the things that we've done, and even the mental states that we've been in or the emotions that we've got even now in this moment, to be able to differentiate between that and who we really are and what is reality. The ultimate confrontation of meditation in our spiritual practice and even our physical practice, whether as a moving meditation or not, is to come face to face, to confront the reality in a very visceral sense that what we think we are is not what we are. Who we think we are is not who we actually are. That is the ego's sense of itself. That is the impermanent way of being. That is the action that we took, and that was in the past. The problem is we take those things and we treat it like it's real and immutable and solid and forever. And the most brutal confrontation for us is to realize that everything that we think of ourselves as being is an illusion. And for some people, that leaves them, flapping in the breeze and like, I don't know, whoa, what am I and what is any of this anymore? But for some people, gives a very much needed escape is not really the right word, but reprieve from what we were so sure that we were in that limiting sense. Our ego is all about limiting us, and the reality that we come to through meditation is that we are limitless. And to be able to confront that and come away from that with an understanding of life and the human existence that is not limited and not stuck in any way is, ultimate freedom. So the kind of order that we go through in meditation, I think, can be the same way that we do it in self-defense. Awareness, breaking the script, and confrontation. We become aware. We use that awareness to start breaking the scripts and to start breaking those cycles of thought. And we gain freedom from that. That is all that the ego is. On some level, the ego is simply a habit or a continuing cycle of thoughts that is identifying as the ego or identifying as the small self. And if we can break that cycle and replace it with something else, replace it with different thoughts or with a different way of identifying as something bigger and infinite. This is what is possible for us through meditation, and this is really what the goal is, on some level at least. So, when you're meditating, in the moment, you don't really want to have, okay, first I got to be aware, then I got to break the script, and then I'm going to confront all this stuff. That is just know that is kind of one way of looking at the way that it's going to go. In the moment of meditation, we are just where we are with it. So we're working on meditation, we're working on awareness rather, we're working on being able to be in the moment, to let go of those thoughts, to break the script and just be here now. And if this way of thinking of meditation or meditation practice helps you and puts it into a perspective that is helpful for you, great. If it stresses you out and you're sitting there thinking about self-defense when you're trying to meditate, just forget about it. This talk never happened. But I think it's interesting. So we're going to sit comfortably and at the very least work on that awareness.